The rain hammered against the glass walls of the penthouse while New York glittered beneath the storm like a city drowning in diamonds. Ethan Cole stood beside the massive marble kitchen island, clutching a stack of contracts he barely understood. Across from him, Billionaire CEO Victoria Hale poured herself another glass of whiskey with shaking hands. That was the first thing that scared him. Victoria Hale never shook. She was the woman business magazines called the Ice Queen of Manhattan. Billion-dollar tech empire. Ruthless negotiations. Men twice her age terrified to speak in meetings she controlled with a single glance. But tonight, she looked human. Broken, even. "You should go home," she said quietly. Ethan frowned. "It's almost midnight. The storm's getting worse." "I know." Lightning flashed across the penthouse windows, illuminating the tension between them. Ethan had worked as her assistant for 8 months. 8 exhausting, impossible months of private jets, sleepless nights, impossible schedules, and pretending he didn't notice the way she softened whenever he smiled. Then Victoria looked directly into his eyes. And everything changed. "If you stay tonight," she whispered, "I don't trust myself." Ethan's chest tightened. "What does that mean?" She laughed bitterly, looking away. "It means I've spent my whole life controlling everything around me." Her voice cracked slightly. "Companies. Investors. Headlines. Men. Another step closer. But I can't control myself around you anymore." Silence swallowed the room. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears as thunder shook the windows. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was his boss. A billionaire. Untouchable. And yet the way she looked at him now felt terrifyingly intimate. Then her phone suddenly rang across the counter. Victoria glanced at the screen, and all color disappeared from her face. Ethan saw the name before she turned it over. Damian Cross. Her ex-husband. The man rumored to have destroyed lives for revenge. Victoria immediately backed away from Ethan like she'd been caught committing a crime. "You need to leave," she whispered urgently. But before Ethan could answer, someone began pounding violently on the penthouse door. The pounding echoed through the penthouse like gunshots. Victoria froze. Ethan had never seen fear on her face before tonight, but now it was everywhere. In her eyes. In the way her fingers trembled against the counter. In the way she couldn't breathe properly. "Victoria," a man shouted from outside the door. "Open the damn door." Damian Cross. Even through the thick steel entrance, his voice carried danger. Ethan stepped forward instinctively. "Do you want me to call security?" "No," Victoria grabbed his wrist instantly. "That'll make it worse." Worse? The billionaire who commanded senators and CEOs was afraid of one man? Another violent bang rattled the walls. "Victoria, I know you're in there." She closed her eyes for 1 second before forcing herself calm again. It was like watching armor slide back over shattered glass. "Listen carefully," she whispered. "Go into the guest hallway. Don't come out unless I call you. I'm not leaving you alone with him. You don't understand who Damian is." Before Ethan could argue, she opened the door. Damian Cross walked in wearing a black tailored coat soaked from the rain. Tall, handsome, dangerous. The kind of man who smiled while destroying people. His eyes immediately scanned the penthouse. "Looking for someone." "You ignored my calls," Damian said coldly. Victoria crossed her arms. "We finalized the divorce a year ago. You don't get to storm into my home anymore." Damian smirked. "Funny. Considering half this penthouse was bought with my money." The tension between them felt poisonous. Ethan watched silently from the hallway shadows as Damian stepped closer to Victoria. Then Damian noticed the whiskey glasses. 2 of them. His expression darkened instantly. "You have company?" Victoria didn't answer quickly enough. That was enough. Damian's jaw clenched as he slowly looked around the apartment again. "You're seeing someone." "No. Liar." Ethan's pulse spiked when Damian suddenly walked toward the hallway. Toward him. Victoria immediately stepped in front of Damian. "Stop." The room went deadly silent. Damian stared at her for several seconds before giving a terrifying little smile. "Oh," he said softly. "Now I'm interested." Damian moved like a predator who finally smelled blood. Victoria blocked his path, but Ethan could already tell this wasn't about jealousy. It was about control. Damian tilted his head slightly. "Who is he?" No one, Victoria answered sharply. That's the problem. Damien's smile faded. You never protect no one like this. Ethan stepped out from the hallway before things escalated further. I work for her. Damien's eyes locked onto him instantly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Assistant? Damien asked. Ethan nodded carefully. Damien laughed under his breath. Of course. Victoria's voice hardened. Leave him out of this. Oh, now I definitely won't. Damien walked closer until he stood directly in front of Ethan. Expensive cologne. Calculated confidence. Pure intimidation. You know who she is, kid? Ethan didn't answer. Damien smirked. Victoria ruins people. Employees. Rivals. Men. He glanced back at her. Especially the ones she gets emotionally attached to. That's enough, Victoria snapped. But Damien ignored her. She'll make you feel special, he continued. Then one day she'll wake up bored and destroy your life without blinking. For the first time all night, Ethan saw something crack inside Victoria. Pain. Real pain. You don't get to talk about destruction, she whispered. Damien's face instantly darkened. The silence between them carried history Ethan clearly didn't know. Then Damien pulled a folder from his coat and tossed it onto the marble counter. I came because the board meeting changed. Victoria opened the folder, and Ethan watched her expression slowly collapse. What is this? A takeover vote. Her eyes widened. You promised you sold your shares. I lied. Ethan felt the air leave the room. Damien leaned closer to Victoria, lowering his voice. By tomorrow morning, your company belongs to me again. Victoria looked furious, but beneath the anger was fear. Real fear. Then Damien glanced at Ethan one last time. And when I take everything from you, he said softly, I'll make sure your little assistant watches. He walked out moments later, leaving silence behind. Victoria stood frozen beside the counter. Then suddenly she laughed. A broken, exhausted laugh. Ethan stepped closer carefully. Victoria. She looked at him with glassy eyes. You should quit now, she whispered. Before my life destroys yours too. Ethan didn't leave. Even after Victoria practically begged him to. Instead, he stayed through the night helping her prepare emergency documents for the morning board meeting. The storm outside faded into dawn while tension consumed the penthouse. Victoria sat barefoot on the office floor surrounded by papers and glowing laptop screens. For once, she didn't look like a billionaire. She looked tired. Human. Ethan handed her coffee. You've been awake for almost 30 hours. So have you. That's different. A faint smile touched her lips. Why? Because your company's collapsing. She stared at him for a moment longer than necessary. You always stay calm around me, she murmured. That's because somebody has to. That actually made her laugh. A real laugh this time. And suddenly the room felt warmer. Dangerously warmer. Hours passed. At some point Ethan loosened his tie while Victoria rested her head against the couch behind him. Their conversation slowly stopped sounding professional. She told him about growing up poor in Chicago. About building her company from nothing. About the loneliness money creates. You know what nobody tells you about becoming powerful? She asked quietly. What? You stop knowing who actually loves you. The vulnerability in her voice hit Ethan harder than he expected. Before he could answer, Victoria looked at him carefully. Why do you stay? Ethan swallowed. Because he was falling for her. Because every time she looked at him, his chest tightened. Because underneath the billionaire armor was a woman desperately trying not to break. But he couldn't say any of that. So he answered honestly instead. Because nobody should go through this alone. Victoria stared at him in silence. Then slowly, almost cautiously, she touched his hand. One touch. That was all it took. The tension between them exploded instantly. Neither moved away. Neither breathed properly. Victoria's voice became barely audible. Ethan. He looked at her lips. She noticed. And suddenly she stood up quickly, backing away like she hated herself for wanting him. No, she whispered. This is exactly what I was afraid of. But Ethan stepped toward her. Maybe you don't have to be afraid. For one dangerous second, it looked like she might kiss him. Then her phone buzzed again. Victoria answered, and all warmth vanished from her face. What do you mean he's missing? Ethan frowned. Victoria slowly lowered the phone. Her voice shook. Damien took my younger brother. Victoria's brother, Liam, was only 22. Ethan learned that during the frantic car ride downtown while rain still soaked the streets of Manhattan. He has gambling debts, Victoria explained shakily from the passenger seat. Damien used to cover them when we were married. And now? Now Damien's using him against me. Her voice cracked for the first time since Ethan had met her. That hit harder than the kidnapping itself. Because Victoria Hale never cracked. Ethan drove faster through the empty streets while Victoria tried calling Liam repeatedly. No answer. Finally, she whispered, "This is my fault. It's Damien's fault. You don't understand." She stared out the window. Everyone around me gets hurt eventually. Ethan parked outside an old boxing gym in Brooklyn, the location Damien's men had texted her 30 minutes earlier. Victoria immediately reached for the door handle. Ethan stopped her gently. "You're not walking in there alone. You could get hurt. So could you." Their eyes locked. Something emotional passed between them then. Something neither wanted to name yet. Inside the gym, the atmosphere felt threatening instantly. Dim lights. Empty ring. Men watching silently from shadows. And Damien waiting in the center. Liam sat nearby unharmed, but terrified. Victoria stormed forward. "Let him go." Damien smiled calmly. "You know the deal. You want the company." "No," Damien looked directly at Ethan. "I want loyalty." Ethan realized then this wasn't business. Damien still loved her. Obsessively. Toxically. "You replaced me fast," Damien said bitterly. Victoria's expression hardened. "He's not my replacement. But you want him to be." Silence. That silence answered everything. Damien saw it too. And suddenly rage flickered across his face. "You're in love with him." Victoria looked stunned by the accusation. Like hearing it out loud terrified her. Damien laughed bitterly. "That's actually worse than I imagined." Then he pulled out a gun. The room froze instantly. Liam panicked. Ethan stepped forward instinctively. Victoria's face turned white. "Damien," she whispered carefully, "don't do this." But Damien wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at Ethan. "With all your money," Damien said coldly, "you finally found the one thing you can't buy." The gun never fired. Because Victoria stepped directly in front of Ethan. "Move," Damien warned. "No." For the first time, fear appeared in Damien's eyes too. Not fear of losing power. Fear of losing her. "You'd protect him over me?" he asked quietly. Victoria didn't hesitate. "Yes." The answer shattered something inside Damien. The room stayed frozen for several agonizing seconds before he slowly lowered the weapon. Then he laughed. Not normally. Like a man finally losing his mind. "You know what's funny?" Damien murmured. "I actually loved you once." Victoria's voice softened slightly. "I know." "No, you don't." His eyes darkened again. "Because if you did, you'd understand why I can't let him have you." Ethan felt genuine danger now. Not manipulation. Obsession. Damien suddenly tossed a file toward Ethan. "Read it." Ethan opened it cautiously, and felt his stomach drop. Employment records. Background checks. Financial history. Every detail of Ethan's life. Including one thing he never expected. A signature. Victoria's signature. He looked up slowly. "What is this?" Victoria's face drained of color. Damien smiled cruelly. "Tell him." Ethan's pulse thundered as he turned toward her. "Victoria?" She looked devastated. Finally, barely above a whisper, she admitted the truth. "I investigated you before hiring you." The words hit like betrayal. "You had me followed?" "At first, yes." "At first?" "I stopped after 2 weeks." Ethan backed away slightly, hurt flooding his face. "You read through my entire life? You worked beside me every day. I needed to know who I could trust." Damien watched the pain unfold with satisfaction. "But that's not the best part," he said. He pulled another paper from the folder. Ethan read one line before the world tilted beneath him. Scholarship foundation payment, Cole family medical debt. His mother's hospital bills. Paid anonymously 6 months ago. Ethan looked up slowly. Victoria had tears in her eyes now. You paid my family's debt? You were going to lose your house, she whispered. Why wouldn't you tell me? Because I didn't do it for credit. Ethan couldn't even process his emotions anymore. Betrayal. Gratitude. Confusion. Love. Damien stepped closer coldly. Now you understand. She buys people. But Ethan looked at Victoria's trembling face, and realized something Damien never understood. She hadn't helped him to control him. She helped because she loved him long before she admitted it. Everything exploded at once. Damien saw the realization in Ethan's eyes and lost control completely. You still choose her, he shouted. Ethan stepped protectively beside Victoria. Put the gun down. Damien laughed angrily. You think she loves you? Victoria doesn't love people. She owns them. That's not true, Victoria whispered. Damien looked at her with heartbreak twisted into rage. I gave you everything. No, she fired back. You gave me fear. Silence crushed the room. Even Damien looked wounded by those words. Then Liam suddenly stood up and shouted, "This has to stop." The distraction lasted only seconds, but it was enough. One of Damien's security men moved nervously. The gun fired accidentally. The sound deafened the entire gym. Victoria screamed. Ethan felt sharp pain rip through his shoulder as he collapsed sideways against the boxing ring. Chaos erupted instantly. Liam tackled one guard while others rushed forward. Damien looked horrified, staring at the blood spreading across Ethan's shirt. Victoria dropped beside him instantly. Ethan, stay with me." He tried to speak, but pain crushed the words from his chest. Victoria held his face with shaking hands. And suddenly the billionaire disappeared completely. No power. No control. Just a terrified woman watching the man she loved bleed in her arms. Tears streamed down her face openly now. "This is my fault," she whispered repeatedly. Damien stood frozen several feet away, staring at what he'd caused. "I didn't mean." "Get away from him!" Victoria screamed with raw fury. Sirens echoed outside moments later. Someone had called the police. Damien slowly raised his hands as officers stormed the building, but his eyes never left Victoria. And Victoria never looked back at him once. Her entire world was focused on Ethan. As paramedics loaded Ethan onto the stretcher, his weak hand searched for hers. Victoria grabbed it instantly. Then Ethan whispered the words that shattered every wall she had left. "I stayed." Victoria broke down crying completely. Because despite everything, he stayed. 3 days later, Ethan woke inside a private hospital suite overlooking Central Park. The first thing he saw was Victoria asleep beside his bed. Still wearing the same clothes from the night he was shot. Her makeup gone. Hair messy. One hand still holding his. Ethan stared at her quietly. The most powerful woman in New York looked exhausted. Fragile. Beautiful. When Victoria finally opened her eyes and realized he was awake, relief flooded her face so intensely it almost hurt to watch. "Oh my God." She immediately stood. "How do you feel? Do you need a doctor?" "I'm okay." That was a lie. But seeing her cry again would hurt worse. Victoria sat beside him slowly, unable to hide the guilt in her expression. "You almost died because of me." "No," Ethan said softly. "Because of Damien." She shook her head. "Everyone near me gets destroyed eventually." Ethan squeezed her hand weakly. "Not everyone leaves." Victoria's eyes filled instantly. Then finally, after weeks of tension, fear, denial, and longing, she whispered the truth. "I love you." The room fell silent. No billionaire mask. No walls. No control. Just honesty. "I tried not to," she admitted tearfully. "I fought it every single day because you deserve something simpler than my life." Ethan smiled faintly despite the pain. "Too late." Victoria laughed through tears. Then he pulled her closer gently. And she kissed him. Softly at first. Like she was terrified he'd disappear. But years of loneliness, fear, and restrained emotion crashed between them all at once. The kiss became emotional. Desperate. Healing. When they finally pulled apart, Victoria rested her forehead against his. "You staying with me is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me," she whispered. Ethan smiled. Good. But outside the hospital room door, someone was watching them silently. And that someone had a camera. 2 weeks later, the story exploded across the internet. Tabloids called it scandal. The billionaire CEO and her assistant. News channels tore Victoria apart publicly. Investors panicked. Board members demanded explanations. Someone had leaked the hospital footage. Someone wanted revenge. But for the first time in her life, Victoria Hale stopped caring what the world thought. Because Ethan stayed. The final board meeting arrived under brutal media attention. Reporters crowded outside the skyscraper while shareholders prepared for war inside. Victoria stood alone at the massive conference table moments before the vote. Then Ethan walked in wearing a dark suit, his injured shoulder still healing. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I'm exactly where I should be." For the first time in years, Victoria smiled without fear. Minutes later, the board meeting began. And then the final twist arrived. Damien Cross entered the room unexpectedly. Everyone went silent. Victoria's expression hardened immediately. "What are you doing here?" Damien looked exhausted. Broken somehow. Then, in front of everyone, he slid legal documents across the table. "I'm surrendering my shares." Shock rippled through the room. Victoria stared at him speechlessly. Damien glanced once at Ethan before looking back at her. "I spent years trying to own you," he said quietly. He was willing to lose everything just to stay beside you. A painful smile crossed his face. "I finally understood the difference." Then Damien walked away forever. The meeting ended with Victoria keeping complete control of her company. But that wasn't the real ending. That night, Victoria stood once again beside the penthouse windows while rain touched Manhattan below. Only this time Ethan stood beside her. "No assistance tonight?" he teased softly. Victoria smiled. Then she wrapped her arms around him and whispered against his lips, "If you stay tonight?" Ethan grinned. "I know." She kissed him before finishing the sentence. And for the first time in her powerful, lonely life, Victoria Hale stopped being afraid of love.